What's up, guys? K Somji here. If you followed my content for any length of time, you'll have heard me reference how I went from zero to $100,000 a month in 8 months in a brand new coaching business. Now, I want to be completely transparent. This wasn't my first rodeo, and I'd been full time in online business for 6 years at that point and already making six figures. So, in no way am I saying this is going to happen for you. But in today's video, all I want to do is download the lessons that I implemented to get me there and simply give them to you on a silver platter so that you can implement them in your business. One of a few things will happen. Either they'll work for you, you'll be happy, you'll make some great money, perhaps you'll sing my praises, or you'll get some great results and you'll say, wow, if I got that from case free content, I wonder what we can do working together. Anyway, let's jump into it. And the reason I'm making this video is honestly to help those of you looking to scale, but also because I'm in the process of scaling up my business once again. We're currently doing around 100,000 a month and slightly north of that. So we've been replacing all our systems with AI and getting a lean team rolling with unrivaled client delivery. So anyway, grab a beverage and let's crack on into the strategies. So the first thing I did to go from zero to $100,000 a month in just 8 months' time, when I launched my offer, I raised my price to charge high ticket. And it's kind of obvious, but there's two ways to make more money. You either sell more expensive stuff or you sell more units. More often, I see people trying to play the volume game. They'll either do low ticket or they'll keep their current price and just try and sell more. Now, I'm going to be honest, both can work. I'm not saying one works and the other doesn't. However, for the volume game, you need to be famous online. Like you need to be going kind of semi-viral, tens or hundreds of thousands of views every reel or every video or week or month. And this is a skill, but it takes time to get there. And there's many factors of why it would and wouldn't work for you. On the other hand, selling high ticket doesn't require you to go viral. You simply need to know how to sell to a demographic who are willing to invest more and obviously solve bigger problems for them. So prior to that, I was selling things like courses for $47, $67, $97, pretty much anything ending in a seven, right? But when I started my high ticket offer, I started it at $1,500. So that was good to kind of get up to like the 10K month range and further than that. But to really get to the six-figure month range, I wouldn't recommend a couple of thousand. So I had to bump my price. I'd recommend 5K at a very minimum. And that's what I did. I started at 1,500 and over time I bumped it to 3,000, 5,000, 6,800, and you'll see the progression of that as well. But that's the first thing I did is I went high ticket and then scaled the price up as I got more client results. Second method, I added in DM conversations. Before that, I just let people come to me. I was just marketing, right? I just posted content and I left links on my profile and in the comments section where people could book in a call with me. And if I did have any DMs, it was literally only people messaging me with a few questions of how do I book in or a couple of questions beforehand. And that's quite honestly how I operate now. I just put out content and let people come to me. But I'm in a different position now. So at the beginning, I was doing that where I was just doing content, where I was doing that, at low six-figure level, but not selling my coaching offer. This was before I started this one. And then I started adding in the DMs. So I'm not talking about cold DMs. I'm not talking about cold, spammy, pitching people who don't know you. I'm talking about nurturing in the DMs, helping people, solving their problems, and then getting them to book in. So what happened was I started conversing with my leads in the DMs, people who had engaged with my content, my group members from my Facebook group, past calls that didn't close. So I had a real reason to connect with these people. People who are engaging on content, asking questions. And I started with 30 conversations a day, prioritizing the hottest leads first. So people I'd already had calls with, people who are, loving my content, people who are asking questions in my group, I'd prioritize them. And like I said, 30 a day. Because I've heard people complain about this. Guys, it's a minute a message, right? Anyway, I'm just sharing what I did. 1 to 2 minutes a message, couple hours a day in the DMs. It was well spent, and that's all I spent on interacting in the DMs. So what I did was I was talking to all these people, nurturing them, using like a game plan, not quite a script, but a framework to see who needed the help and book those people in for calls. So think about that. If you even nurtured and helped 100 leads a week in the DMs, and again, that's the important distinction, it's leads, people who want your help, not just random people. What would that be worth to you? 100 people a week? Could you close 5 deals? Could you book in 5, 6, 7 calls? Is that losing you 1, 2, 3 deals a month? It all adds up, right? And trust me, it actually turns out into sales every single week from that. But that was the second thing I did. I started adding in DM conversations to qualify people, nurture people, help them, follow up after calls, even things like people who aren't ready to book in and buy. I would send them assets. I would send them like long form content. I would send them things that I'd done in my business to nurture them. Moving on to number 3, controversial one here. I told people my price. Crazy, right? What kind of high ticket coach tells people his price? Now, I didn't announce it from the rooftops. I didn't yell, this is my price, I'm charging this many thousands. No, of course not. But I was open about it if people asked. And I had it indicated on my booking form. So I didn't lead with it, but once people were far enough in the pipeline, I had it on my booking form. And the reason for that was, it's high ticket. This reduced objections. It gained respect from people because I wasn't like hiding the price. And I came up with this idea when I looked around at high price stuff elsewhere. Cars, houses, watches, they don't hide their price. Generally, high ticket stuff, they use that as a filtering mechanism to filter people out. So if you've given enough value, people are actually okay with it. Now, if you don't give any value and you just say the price with no belief that you can solve their problem and they don't believe that either, then yeah, it's always going to be too expensive for people. But if you've helped people so much and then you say your price, it will be too expensive for some, but others will be okay. And that's all you're looking for. You're just looking for the people who are able and willing to invest. And another reason is high ticket sales. It's not an impulse purchase like a low ticket $27, $37 thing. People don't need any nurturing for that. $27, they'll whip out the credit card, throw it down, $37, $97 again, anything ending in a 7, but low enough, right? It's an impulse purchase. But for high ticket, people need to allocate for it in their expenses or savings or marketing budget. Even though you might be able to convince some people over the edge, it's like, no, for the majority of time, if they know ahead of time, it's just going to help. So what I did was I shared my range, and you could share the amount, you could share your payment plan details, you could share a range, but I give people an indication of what it is. So they don't come to the call expecting something to be like $300 and find out, wow, it's $5,000. Okay, I wish you told me that. I would have just never booked the call. I would have saved you and myself some time. Fourth thing I did, I sold a downsell. I've always had this kind of thought, like, why leave money on the table? And not just money, why leave people without results that I could help them with? Many people genuinely, like I said above, they just couldn't afford it. Or they could afford it if it was really in their budget. Like if a car broke down or something, they'd find the money. But they didn't trust me enough yet to pay that much. So I thought, hey, if I could monetize and help them at the same time, prove myself to them where they'll purchase the higher ticket later and stop that money going elsewhere, why not? Because if they don't spend it with you, that money is going to go elsewhere. And if I got them a great result, it was kind of a challenge to me. It's only natural that they would ascend. So if you're selling something for $5,000 and somebody can't buy it, and let's say you sell them something for $500 and they get an amazing result and they make $2,000 out of it, it's only natural they'll go further. So the way I did this, I initially sold a 1-hour game plan session for the people who couldn't buy my high ticket. They could hire me for an hour where we'd assess their whole business, give them a game plan, and they would install that in their business. That was an hour for $500. Over time, I raised it to $750. Then I raised it to $1,000 as my main offer price went up. And then I finally got my time back from that. I just stopped doing that. And I made it pre-recorded and automated. So people can then consume that. And that $500, $750, $1,000, it didn't take any of my time. And it kind of kept my time reserved for paying clients. So that was really good because a lot of people, they wanted to invest. Like I said, the trust wasn't there. They didn't have it in the budget. And so we could sell them something. And what that did was, let's say we sold 10 of those a month at $500 initially before I raised it. It's an extra $5,000 a month from the people who wouldn't have spent money. It's an extra $60K a year. Of those 10 people a month, let's say 1 or 2 of them come and upgrade after they get the result. So if we say even 1 did, you get $5,000 on the front end from 10 $500 1-hour sessions or however you're delivering it. and then one person upgrade to the 5,000. So you get 10,000 extra a month. Small tweak, but massive change. Fifth thing I did, I ran a promotion cycle every quarter to claw back some of the lost revenue and have a big cash injection. So all the sales that in the previous quarter that didn't close, we just gave them an absolute no-brainer offer, like something they couldn't bloody refuse. And we got all the fence sitters to pick a side. Either they still didn't want to buy, no problem, but 1 out of every 10, 2 out of every 10 did. So we got them over the edge. And this literally helped me add multi 5-figure weeks once every quarter I ran this. So think about it for yourself. If you're doing, let's keep the numbers simple, if you're doing 30 calls a month, so you've got 90 people over a quarter, and of those 90 people, let's say 10%, let's say 9 of them come back and buy, and you do that at $5,000, you just pulled in 45K in a quick week, once a quarter. You might think that's crazy for you. You might think that's small for you. So adjust to your own numbers. It could be 10K, it could be 20K, it could be 100, 200, whatever it is, right? And I think when I hit that 100K month mark, I think I had just done a third one of these because we were almost 9 months into the year there. So I'd done a third one of these. I got used to it. I got our system dialed in and optimized. And we also had the people from the previous quarter and the previous quarter and the previous quarter. People love a deal. And speaking of this, it's called a rapid cash injection. And I did a full video on that process that I teach to my clients that helps them have 20 to 50K spikes in their business. And what I'll do is I'll leave that video linked somewhere around here so you can click on it and go and check that out. Number 6, I started to focus on renewals. Now, obviously, when selling info or coaching, I'll be honest, it's not a very sticky business model. What happens is people learn the skill and then they leave, which makes sense, right? You wouldn't take driving lessons and then once you're driving, go back and take more lessons. It's just not done. So I didn't expect much. I would never expect like, oh, everybody's going to renew. But there are a couple of scenarios where people do want more support. They do want more access to you, or they got a result and they got a result, they were happy, but it just wasn't solidified. And especially if you're doing like results-based, income-based, or even non-income-based opportunities, they just might want to solidify it. So it's maybe only a few, 10%, 20%, whatever it is, but there's zero client acquisition cost and it all adds up. So if you normally have to spend this many hours or this much money on ads to get a client, this client's already there. It's on a silver platter. You just have to renew them. And so every little bit adds up. And even though I said it's not a super sticky business model, since then I've actually added ascensions and created more of a process to where we get around 40% renewals and upsells now. So that just increases our lifetime value like crazy. And if you want me to do a future video on that, let me know in the comments. Number 7, I drove all my organic traffic to a community with entry questions. So essentially this was my funnel, and I had a reason for doing this because I had a traditional funnel on ClickFunnels, I think it was. But when I used this community, it was a Facebook group with entry questions, this was lower friction. They didn't need to leave social media. And at that time, I think people were really getting burnt out of just being sent to this capture page and that capture page. And obviously social media doesn't like it when you push people off the platform. So instead of sending them off platform, it's like, okay, I'll keep you on the platform and just use this as a funnel. So when people entered my Facebook group, instead of just an email that I would get through my traditional funnel, I collected their email. I now had a direct line of communication with them in the DMs. And when they came into my group, they would see my content over and over and over rather than just going to a funnel and bouncing. Or if they put a fake email in a funnel, you can't do that in a Facebook group, mate. You can, but you're still in the group and I still have the DM line of communication. So that was really cool. And they were exposed to me over and over and over by coming into my group. So what I did was the people that came in, I DM qualified every single lead. And I either booked calls or sent them to my content and assets in the group, which nurtured them, got that more views, more likes, more comments. And it just built this really cool self-sustaining, self-fulfilling prophecy, funnel, whatever you want to call it. And this built my pipeline at the same time. Because now I had, like I said, the email, I had the DMs, I had them consuming my content. And instead of people just booking and buying or not, like through a traditional funnel, I had them in all those different communication mediums. So I moved them to my email list. They started getting my emails. I gathered phone numbers. They could get texts. And I had this many different lines of communication to nurture people. And let me tell you, one of the real game changers there was the community interaction. It was bloody brilliant. It positioned me as an authority. So when people came into my group, like my 2,300 person group, to learn from me, and they saw hundreds of people commenting, mate, it's a good look. It's a good look. They see hundreds of people commenting, hundreds of people liking, 10, 20, 50 people jumping on live videos, asking questions. It really positions you as the leader. So it was really good. Number 8, related to the group actually, I used long form assets. So not here on YouTube like I'm doing now, very similar. But every week, what I did was I did a long training. If I remember correctly, it was Fridays at 10 a.m. MST, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. PST. I still remember all that stuff. And then it was still a decent time in the UK as well. So I did that training. And sometimes any of my OGs comment, let me know. I would break out the whiteboard and I would really break things down. Sometimes I'd just be sitting here talking like this. But often I'd break out the whiteboard 20, 30 minutes long. And what I did with these trainings, all new members into the group, I use these as conversion assets and nurturing assets. So all new members, I move people back to this. So they were trainings that could be evergreen, things like how to close higher rates. I can't remember all of them right now, like how to increase your following by this much per week, a content calendar that gets this result. So things that people want to know. And I drove new members back to this based on what they told me in the DMs, based on what they told me in the entry questions. I would tag them in the relevant things. And these were being used months and months later, even over a year later, if I remember correctly, to promote on other social media with the link back to the group. So I might have had a post, oh, I did a video on, how I closed 30K on Black Friday using these 5 posts. If you want it, comment below. And I might have done that video 9 months, 12 months, 15 months ago. And then people commented, I would send them to the group. More people come in the group, the email, the DM, the phone number, get tagged. It bumps it up. It was a beautiful thing. So even later, they were still getting new views and comments every single week. It was so powerful. So whether you're doing that nowadays on a Facebook group, a school community, email list, and YouTube, there's so many different ways. I want you to take the principles of it. And again, remember, I'm sharing with you what I did then to scale up. So use that as you wish. Number 9, I started sending emails more frequently. So instead of just sending them like once a week or when I felt like it, I started sending emails 3 to 5 times a week. And it's just really, it wasn't just about converting. I'm not just trying to sell through the email. It's like a constant nudge, a constant reminder, staying top of mind. Hey there, I see you, you see me kind of thing. Because it's a direct line of communication into their inbox and people open it. So sometimes I would send people to content, sometimes to the group, sometimes to book a call, sometimes to reply where I could nurture them. Again, just staying top of mind. And that was really key because now remember, they're seeing me on social media, they're seeing me in the group, they're getting notifications, they're seeing the emails, they're getting all these different touch points. And that's even more important now than it was back then. We were just kind of ahead of the curve, I guess. Number 10, I used social media story sequences. I think I was probably one of the first people to use these. And so I used Facebook stories and Instagram stories strategically to do one of 3 things. The first was to get people into my funnel, which was mainly, like I said, my group at the time. And I would do this by either sharing the group directly or teasing the training that I was doing, either talking about it on the story or like a picture with text and a poll that people could respond to. The second way, it was I would ask questions in the DMs where I could nurture people. Like, what's the biggest thing you're working on this week? What's the main thing you'd like to know about your business? Let me know and I'll do a training. What's the biggest bottleneck holding you back? Whatever it was, right? So those responses I could nurture. And then the third was to directly book in calls. So I could do that one hard call to action a week. And because of all the value and client results I was sharing on my profile, in stories, in the group, people complied with these and the momentum built over time. So those were literally the 10 things I did. There might have been a couple more that I'm missing out, but those were the 10 that I could isolate. Now, even though I've shared those with you there, if you want, let me actually peel back the curtain a little bit more and share with you the entire funnel so I can show with you how they tie together. So you can see, you can maybe piece together how they worked, but everything doesn't just work on its own, they work in unison. So what I did was I generated followers from free content on social media. So I'd post the content, I'd post the written content, the video content on my main social media that would attract followers. The people who DM'd me or followed the call to action to my group, to the assets, etc., they become leads who went to my group. From there, I collected emails and they got into my intro sequence on the email, and they also got DM'd. And I think I also asked them, if they wanted help directly, and they would tell me their problems as well. So we tag them and stuff. If they were a fit, I'd book them in for a call to sell Consulting Incubator. And on the topic of the program, the Consulting Incubator program, it started at $1,500 one-to-one. And over time, it rose from $1,500 to $3,000 a few months later, then $5,000, then $6,800 as we got more results, supply and demand as well, and all stuff like that. So we were selling people, or I rather was selling people that program. If they weren't a fit for a call, then they'd be nurtured and sent assets over time. It's like, hey, you're not ready for a call now, but I know you will be. So I'm going to keep nurturing you and just delivering more and more and more and more and more value through content and the DMs. The people who did come on the calls, if they didn't buy, we'd offer a downsell, like I mentioned, which we would later upsell. So if I sold them a $500 downsell, they would get so much bloody value from that $500 downsell and a result that, let's say they made, I think I may have mentioned this earlier, if they made 1,500 or whatever, or 2,000 from that $500 call, it's a very logical conversation to say, hey, based on that, like, we got you this. How much do you think we could get when we take you on at this level? And now we've actually helped them make money to pay for that. And to be quite honest, the things I've just mentioned in the funnel, I should have just stuck with that, if I'm being honest. It was working beautifully. But at that point, I was kind of flirting with the high 5-figure months. And, I really wanted to hit that 100K month. But instead of just refining my system, getting more traffic, more leads, and actually fixing the constraint, which was traffic and trust, I actually added an upsell from there for my clients who were succeeding. It was a one-to-one upsell. It was $25,000. Sounds like a lot, but honestly, it was brilliant. Like, people worked with me for an entire year. And so it was essentially just one-to-one access, very close proximity. The problem is I hadn't structured it too well, and I think I should have pushed the main offer to over 100K a month first. But anyway, you live and you learn. It was great for the client, but not so much for me, right? Because I was kind of scattered all over the place. But even one person a month in there was an extra $25,000 for me. So an extra 25K a month. So I did that as well. And so sometimes we would make up the difference on that. And the key thing is, everything I shared with you there was all just on organic social media. This is before I ran any ads. Bloody hell, this is before I even created a VSL. So again, I'm not saying these will work for you. Honestly, I'm sure some will. I'm sure some will get you incredible results. But remember, social media changes fast. The things that worked a couple of years ago, they don't work as well now like the underlying principles do. The principles of marketing, they still do. So you may need to adapt it. Some of these things you can maybe use as is, but maybe you might need to adapt and change a platform or a mechanism or a method, or just make a few other tweaks. And so if you look in my marketing, you might recognize some of these. I still use variations of all of these with my clients, but updated to actually work in today's market and to separate myself, and I help our clients separate themselves instead of just doing the exact same thing and the exact same scripts that everybody else uses. This is kind of one of the curses of marketing. When something works, everybody copies it, and then it doesn't work as well, and you have to adapt and stay in front. But that's what makes this game interesting. So while everybody else is implementing what people did in previous years, we like to stay on the cutting edge. Anyway, guys, I hope this has been helpful, just sharing what I did. If any of this sounds like something you'd want to apply in your business, but made current for today's market, We actually help coaches install inbound client acquisition systems to bring you pre-sold leads without you chasing people and help you sign up an extra 5 to 10 clients a month or even more. So if you'd like to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description. But other than that, have a good one. And if something with this video stuck with you, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what that is. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.